Hello there, and welcome to today's recap of the Manhwa, The Second Coming of Gluttony. In this world, we will meet Sol, a former gambler and self-proclaimed trash of humanity, whose life takes a dramatic turn after a haunting nightmare that turns out to be more than just a dream. Equipped with unique skills and joined by other dreamers, Sol embarks on a journey of self-discovery and transformation in the new world. Follow Sol's epic adventure as he steps out of the darkness and into a new life full of danger, challenges, and endless possibilities. Are you ready to experience the ultimate manhwa of self-redemption and triumph over adversity in the Lost Paradise? If yes, please destroy the like and subscribe button below, and don't forget to leave your comments down below to let us know how you like it. Aftermath Battleground. Body parts scattered everywhere, signaling a severe war. A bird was digging an eyeball out of a corpse for food when a pink-haired girl suddenly coughed. She was a royal family member who had survived the match, but she was not the only survivor. A few steps from her, a man was lingering in his life. Gula the god appeared in front of him, praising him for having survived such a bloody war. She offered him a wish. The man could barely speak at that point, but Gula read his mind and was surprised to know that he didn't wish for anything like a second life, wealth, or fame, or to come back to this world. His sole wish was to be able to do everything again. Taken aback by this ridiculous idea, Gula told him that what he had done was not enough for such a wish. Then, the pink-haired girl raised her voice. She told Gula to fulfill his wish and took off her royalty necklace in exchange for that. She explained that this was to finish the royalty's promise to the Earth people, a huge reward in exchange for the help. Gula finally agreed, and she cast magic on the two people. Everything flashed back to a casino on Earth. Upon returning to Earth, our protagonist found himself 20 years old again. He began to act like a crazy person, becoming an eccentric in the eyes of others. He was known to be quite successful in the gambling world. It was said that a year ago, he used to be a very good gambler because he knew the right time to jump in and the right time to stop. After rummaging through the trash and not finding what he was looking for, he went to a cafe with the intention of making some cash. At the cafe, the staff were rating a male customer on his figure, face, and voice, which made the manager, a beautiful woman, unsatisfied, reminding everyone to not behave like that again. Just then, our protagonist arrived in shabby clothes, with an unshaven face and a body emitting the scent of someone who had not bathed in days. He sat down and ordered an Americano without paying in advance, which went against the cafe's policy of paying first before being seated. As the staff were about to remind him of this, the beautiful manager of the cafe told them to let her handle it by making an Americano as ordered. When our protagonist received his coffee, he wanted the cafe to compensate him for finding bugs in it. It turned out that the beautiful manager was his ex-girlfriend, and he demanded the money he had sent her when she was studying abroad. She immediately gave him a small sum of $2,000, making him feel like a hobo. He accused her of being a gold digger, only getting close to him when he had money. His accusations left her disappointed because he had once been everything to her, her hero, who had accompanied her through the toughest time of her life. Our boy used to have a special innate ability. When he focused on his eyes, he could see a green aura from everything around. And if anything does not turn green, something bad is about to happen. That was why he went to the casino in the first place, to test out his special ability. Needless to say, he made fortunes at that time, and with the successive wins came the addiction. Abuse of power quickly exhausted his body, and finally a severe sickness took his power away. Boy could no longer use that power to cheat and lost everything at the casino. His girlfriend also left him, for he had become nothing less than an insane gambler. Back to reality, Sol was drinking at the riverside when a gem appeared and went into his forehead. Like a movie, his life fighting on the battlefields flashed in front of him. He startled awake and quickly lit a cigarette to calm down. He convinced himself that it was just a dream, but still, he could feel some unrest. Man stood up to go and started his life again and found his lost money. After waking up from a strange dream, the protagonist realized that the cash he had hidden in his pocket had disappeared. He intended to check the CCTV to find the thief, but unfortunately, there was no CCTV where he was sleeping. His life was increasingly difficult, and he walked down to the bridge and decided to commit suicide. He apologized to his ex-girlfriend Sunhwa, his parents, and himself, tears streaming down his face and falling into the water. At that moment, his ability to see everything in green came back when his tears touched the water. But how did this happen? Just then, a hot woman appeared and interrupted the protagonist's thoughts. She introduced herself as a team leader of Xinyoung, a drug company, and saw that our main character had a large fortune. After showing him a large sum of money, she offered him a contract to become an employee of the company. For some reason, when he received her business card, the phrase "meat shield" appeared in his head, making him suspicious. He immediately refused the offer. This didn't make her nervous, and she pretended to check her phone and confirm that the position had been filled. She turned and wished him good luck before leaving. As planned, he called her back and suggested that he would agree if it was an invitation instead of a contract. The woman was super skeptical of Soul's request. She asked him if he was from that world, but it was clearly not because he did not have the aura. Soul also denied it and continued to ask for an invitation, saying that he wanted nothing from a slave contract. To convince the woman, he started to talk about her pharmaceutical company. Afraid that Soul might spread around about the company's connection with that world, the woman agreed to give him her precious and extra special invitation. This invitation was given to her by a god. She gave him 3 conditions. First, to promise her that he had never been to that world. Second, to tell her his identity. And third, to discuss with her everything after his acceptance. Soul agreed to all but the second condition. After bargaining around, the two reached an agreement and the woman took out a glowing gold stamper from her bag. She stamped it on Soul's palm. She handed him a letter and said he could read it or not, but the important thing to remember was that the gate would open tonight at 10:30. She warned him to stay alive no matter what, if he successfully entered, as her life depended on it. Then she returned the cash she had taken from him while he was asleep and reminded him not to sleep anywhere next time. He remembered her words of caution, and the time of the gate opening at 10:30 kept appearing in his mind. At Sunhwa's cafe, the protagonist appeared again. She threatened to call the police because of his behavior disturbing her business. He wanted to say a final word to her before entering another world, but she turned away and didn't want to hear him explain anymore. She went into the staff room and locked the door, not giving him a chance to explain. Before leaving, he gave the money he had received from her to the staff and told them to return it to her when she came back. He walked away, smoking in sadness, wondering whether he should send Sunhwa a message or not. Just then, the clock struck 10:30 and a green aura appeared. He disappeared, leaving a message hanging, unsent to her. "I'm sorry." Scene changed. The main character woke up in his room. His phone notified, "The message from the guide has arrived." He touched the phone and was immediately signed in. The notification told all players to gather at Nakwon High School. What a funny name. Nakwon means paradise in Korean. Arriving at the school stadium, Soul was greeted by a blonde girl. She opened her 2 hands to receive his contract or invitation and was shocked to find that he came there with a gold invitation. She respectfully guided him to his seat, while other players mumbling about her strange attitude. Looking around, Soul realized that he had come here in his dream, but the situation was completely different. Then a general-looking man came out on the stage introducing himself as their instructor. He guided them to open their status windows and everyone quickly followed. Soul's stats were so-so, to say the least, but he had 2 innate abilities, foreseeing and an unknown one. A player raised his hand to ask about the innate ability part, and the instructor confirmed to them that having no innate ability is the common situation. At Paradise High School auditorium, everyone was watching their own status window and having their own thoughts about their rankings. Afterwards, they were asked to activate their marking grade in the same way they did with the status window. Upon activating the marking grade, people received marks based on the system, ranging from bronze to golden marking. The majority of people in the auditorium had bronze markings. Those with bronze marking received 1 random box as a normal bonus. Among all people present at the auditorium, 2 people received silver markings, Mr. Kang Suk and Miss Yoon Seora, and they received 2 random boxes. The last person in the auditorium revealed his marking, and he was our main character. His golden marking surprised the guide because he had only heard of it, and this was his first time seeing it for real. Our protagonist received 3 boxes for his golden marking. Upon opening the first box, he activated his innate ability, which allowed him to see the status window of others without their permission. A girl stood up and challenged the instructor as to why she and the other people did not receive anything. To this, the instructor showed a scornful attitude and explained that only those who came with an invitation would be presented with the artifacts. Then a quest announcement was sent to their phone. It was to escape the stadium and get to the main hall in 4 hours. The instructor disappeared and the door was immediately shut. But something was outside trying to break in. People rushed over to block the door. Soul quickly scanned through the shut door and it was orange. Danger. He calmly checked the message and saw the final sentence. There was only one way out of the stadium. We finally blocked it, but also blocking our exit. Meanwhile, other players had already blocked the door. The silver-marked group of brags were looking around when the contractees rudely asked them for help. The brags, without a doubt, arrogantly refused and even shamed them for being useless. They turned to the bronze-marked siblings and invited them to collaborate. The sister was convinced. The silver-headed man then turned to Main and, of course, offered him a collaboration. Soul scanned the crowd and found the silver-headed man to be orange, and the girl had no color at all. No color means bad things are gonna happen. He glanced down and was startled to realize that the ground all around him was all red. Suddenly, a big earthquake happened, causing everyone to scream in panic and run for their lives. A big hole appeared on the ground, and a large hook emerged, attacking the whole room. The hook approached the older brother, but the younger sister pushed him, causing him to fall and take his place. As a result, the younger sister was pulled back down the hole by the hook. Everyone gathered to help and pulled her back up. The main character thought it was too late to help, but he still ran over and joined in to help her out. Unfortunately, it was of no use. The younger sister's body was cut in half and blood was everywhere, causing everyone to be terrified. To make matters worse, a beast crawled out from the hole with a hook as its arm. It attacked and chased everyone in the room. Everyone was frantically looking for a way to escape, trying to open the door to run away. In contrast, the main character felt calm and unreal. He realized that the answer was already out there, and that the beast was not just any beast. People rushed out and scattered everywhere. Inside the stadium, Soul was ready to fight the scary monster. He used the stick in place of his lance in the dream and attacked the monster. It was forced to step back. Realizing what he had just done, Soul was scared to death. But luckily the monster was also struck that it got away. Soul left without knowing what the silver-marked girl was hiding after the stage. Outside, the invitees were trying to break into the door with bare force. A construction worker-looking man used a flower pot to break the window to get inside when he saw the reflection of the monster in the broken glass. He quickly got away. Everyone was panicking again. When our main lead was getting close to the required destination, the system announced that 3 players had already reached the hall. Then, a sudden light source astounded him. He quickly concealed himself to guard. In the darkness, the main character saw Hyun Sang-min's status window. Hyun Sang-min also recognized that the person was our main character, the only player with the gold marker. Sang-min wanted to make a deal with him to beat the game altogether. Our main lead asked him some questions, like why he didn't choose the teams with those silver punks, and why he was the first one to help the girl when she was grabbed by the monster. He explained that if he saved her, the people around would have thought that they owed their life to him, and done what they could to repay him. He also promised to follow the main character's orders and take risks for him if he joined their team. The main character saw that Hyun Sang-min was more open, so he would be easier to work with compared to the silver marking guys. Therefore, the two of them joined forces. The other players were still in a state of panic, looking for a place to hide as monsters lurked everywhere. Then, a man among them spoke up and he came up with an idea. Soul, our main lead, explained to Sang-min the meaning of such a long time for a rather simple quest. It was their time allowance to collect useful matters. The two found their way to the main building. Outside, the snotty man encouraged the contractees to follow his plan. They searched for something on the ground. Sung-jin, the brother, was extremely upset, but he was comforted by a girl, saying that his sister's sacrifice would be wasted if he kept sniveling. In the office room, Yuri, the other silver marking, was delighted to find a piece of paper. When the monster passed through, she quickly hid under the table, holding her breath. Suddenly, a boy outside threw a stone and broke the office's window, causing the monster to notice them. It jumped outside and chased them. A boy stumbled and it was about to be eaten, but then was saved by the stone-throwing boy again. the group of people ran away from the monsters chasing after them. They quickly found a door and most of them rushed inside to hide. However, a few people stumbled and were left behind. The snotty man even locked the door and reminded everyone that this was how they were going to survive the tutorial. In another development, Sol and Sangmin realized that there was something the guide didn't mention, but nobody asked about it. It was the time limit and conditions for the tutorial. Sangmin recognized Sol's intelligence and sharp reasoning, so he was even more sure that he needed to catch up with him and stay with him. As they were about to enter a convenience store, Sangmin hurried ahead, feeling responsible for such tasks. Meanwhile, Sol used his innate ability to check the color of the store if it was green or not before deciding to walk in. They explored the first floor of the building and stopped in front of a suspicious door. Sol and Sangmin opened the door to smell an intense bloody smell. Seeing that this was an orange way, and obviously the smell did signal something, the two decided to come back to the iron bars. Sol scanned and found that the bars had no color at all. Outside, the monster was attracted by the boy and his girlfriend. The couple tried to run away, but no miracle happened to them. Finishing the unlucky couple, the monster continued to chase a contractee group. Sungjin and the girl were stuck behind, so they were caught first by the monster. Facing the monster, Sungjin this time was able to take his courage. He took out from his bag a sphere and threw it toward the monster. The sphere startled the monster and lit up the whole building. Sungjin and the girl were able to escape in the nick of time. On the other hand, the man and his family were heading upstairs. They also met the iron bars like Sol. The man held on to the bar without thinking immediately. The system announced to him that a new user had successfully registered. He got inside the bars and they quickly got shut. But his wife and daughter were still outside and the monster was approaching. The man kneeled in front of the silver-headed man's group, begging them to save his family. The group ignored him at first, but eventually got up and went out. The wife and daughter were already held by the monster. The silver-headed man smirked and told the man the way to open the bars. He could press the red button on the wall to release the bars, letting his wife and daughter inside and having all of them eaten by the monster. Or he could do nothing and watch the death of his loved ones. At the same time, Sol also touched the bars. Similarly, the bars were released and Sol got inside. Right after Sol went in, they shut closed, leaving Sangmin outside alone. He was worried to see Sol walking away, but then Sol pressed the red button. He was in too. Going up, they met the silver-headed group and, of course, the man and his family, who were screaming for help. The group were looking on the family's tragedy, and they couldn't do anything either. Only the first person to touch the bars can push the red button. The man was still frozen, and the daughter was screaming hard. It was a brutally sad situation, and Sol couldn't help himself but want to save them. He had already put his hand on his bag, but Sangmin stopped him. I mean, it's the father to make the decision. He cried and kneeled once again, but this time it was to apologize to his wife and daughter. Observing such a scene, reality hit Sol hard, and he wondered if he and Sonhwa were to be in that situation, what decision would he make? Sangmin reminded Sol to stay more alert as more dangers were appearing. They also reminded themselves that this place was not a paradise, but rather the gateway to paradise, which is why it is called a tutorial. Upon hearing Sangmin's words, Sol remembered the meaningful words that the manager had told him before he planned to commit suicide at the Han River. Now he fully understood their significance. They saw a man sitting on a corner, devastated because he had lost his family. But he deserved this outcome because he had brought his wife and daughter to a place like this. The system announced that Sol had also arrived at the waiting room on the second floor. Everyone on the second floor could see that the iron bars in the waiting room were designed so that the first ones to touch them were registered as users. Therefore, the remaining people had a 50% chance of getting one of their gates. However, they knew that the silver marked players would not let others in so easily. The group was enraged by the silver-headed man's words. They kept asking him to open the gate, but he wouldn't listen. Then, the blue-shirt girl, Songhwa, bowed, apologized to the silverhead for having insulted him in the stadium. The man then agreed to open the gate, but he would only let the 4 go in. Songhwa would have to stay out. Songhwa agreed. When Sungjin was let in, he tried to reach to push the button, but nothing happened. He was immediately dragged down by the big boy on the silverhead's side. Silverhead threatened him to obey, as he was the one with the authority there. Then the silver-headed man turned to Sang-ah again, saying that if she took off all her clothes, he would let her in. Having no choice, Sang-ah agreed and started taking off her clothes in the men's shameful eyes. Sol was totally furious, and he decided to give him a lesson as to who was really the powerful one. Silverhead demanded the girl to dance naked in front of the monster, and Sol witnessed everything. Although he was not the type of person to stand up for strangers, he will not hesitate anymore to help people to make things different. So the two got into an argument and were about to fight. Sol's brothers stood behind him in ready to fight stance, ready to crack the Silverhead into 100 pieces. However, Sol raised his hand to signal his brothers not to be violent. This made the Silverhead extremely proud, and he boasted about his abilities and his being invited there. While he was speaking, Sol punched him with a powerful blow that everyone had to stare at because they had never seen such a strong punch before. The main character dragged the Silverhead away, using his fingerprint to open the door for the girl to enter. At the same time, he demanded the Silverhead's henchman to run outside and pick up the girl's clothes before the door closed. However, all of this hadn't made his anger settle down. The second quest promptly started. Players are requested to get to the 3-1 classroom on the 4th floor through the 3rd floor's annex. In a cinema-like room, a group of people were observing the players, complaining about the poor quality of the players. They were also discussing the progress of other areas, either having great strategies from the start or a dominant player taking the lead. In short, Korea is falling behind. In Seoul, the only gold mark was kinda acting recklessly. Kim Hannah, the woman, tried to keep her cool, but she was also extremely worried inside. Did she waste her precious gold mark? Other observers held different opinions towards Seoul, but most of them did not highly appreciate him. But they were soon taken aback. On the screen, Seoul carelessly activated a trap and a bunch of arrows were shot out. To everyone's surprise though, he easily fended off all of them. It was as if he could see from all sides, as if he had already become an Earthling. It was even more shocking when Seoul finished the quest. It had only been more than 6 minutes since the quest started, and the record for fastest clearing of this quest belonged to the legendary Sung Shi-yeon of 29 minutes and 39 seconds. In the classroom, the players met Han the instructor. Han welcomed them and asked if their first 2 lessons were much fun, then declaring that they were the last class. People were tensed up, but Han told them that it would be a really fun and easy task as long as they followed the rules. The third quest was very similar to the previous ones, getting to the 6th floor, the Paradise. However, to get in the Paradise required an entrance fee of 100 coins, so the players will have to collect them along the way. There will also be a gacha machine for them to play with coins, of course. The quest would be extremely easy for those that own the map. Then Seoul, our main lead, posed a critical question. Why would the players need weapons or magical artifacts from the gacha machines for an easy and fun task? To this, Han explained that the corpses hated anything alive. And before he left, he told them a final hint. Collaborating would make the task easier. Han left and the players started discussing. Seoul naturally took the lead, and sound interrupted them. They noticed that some people had already gotten away, including the Silver Marked Girly and the Silver Brags group. Seoul immediately knew that to collaborate would really be their toughest challenge in this quest. Sangmin then told Seoul to take time and eat before the quest started, so the two shared the food they collected with others. These were the gains they got from the 4-hour first quest. People were impressed by Seoul's acuteness. Seeing that Sang-ah, the blue-shirt girl, was getting close to Seoul, the red-dressed woman was very jealous. She gathered other players and seemed to have induced them something. These players then asked Seoul to help them find and revive their friends. Sangmin was furious by their irrational request. It would only put them in more danger. Sang-ah went to Sungjin, Sangmin went alone, and the others were led away by the red-dressed woman. Seoul stayed in the classroom alone. He was about to leave to collect the coins too when he received a message. It was a message from Unknown, telling him places that he could find the coins. Following it, Seoul quickly got his first 4 coins. He then got to the next room and met Yoon Seora, the silver girl, who he knew that got the map. But it seemed like Seora's map was not very detailed, at least not as detailed as the message he received, because she had to search every table and found only 1 coin. Seoul, on the other hand, went straight to that one table and got 12 coins. The two then got to their next room, where Sol knew that they had 2 places for coins, on the teacher's table and on the TV, but Sayora only knew about the coin on the TV. The two rushed in and Sol got 3 coins, while Sayora struggled to get the coin on the TV. She's really cute. Sol then came to help her, but she blushed and ran away. Fast forward to midnight. Sol had already gotten 1,500 plus coins, Sangmin 100, Sang-ah 70 coins. Yoon Sayora, however, had 0 coins. It was close to midnight. The moment of death was about to come, but in the 3-1 safe classroom, there was only Sol, Sangmin, and Sang-ah. Learning that Sang-ah had collected only 70 coins, Sol immediately gave her 30. Sangmin was surprised about the number of coins Sol got. So, Yoon Sayora did not take it all, he said. From Sangmin's word, Sol learned that everyone had known that Sayora owned the map. He knew that she was in danger, and Seung-jin did not come back either. Then the moment of death arrived. Seung-jin was in the school lab for a coin. He found it under a table and kneeled to get it, but a drop of blood stopped him. He raised his head to see his sister's body hanging in the air. He was totally scared, but she told him that she would always love him, so he was more determined to revive her. A sudden scream startled them. It was Seung-jin's. He found injured Sayora lying unconscious in the toilet. Sol's 3 rushed there and Sang-ah quickly took off her shirt to cover Sayora's wounds. She needed immediate treatment, but they had no access to medication there. Seung-jin said that there was some alcohol in the lab. Anyways, alcohol alone wouldn't be enough to save Sayora. Everyone was all worried, but Sol said that there was a way, a gacha machine. They were also told that the bars had been released and the monsters could go to the upper floors now. Sangmin and Sol got to the library and were able to collect the necessary medicines. Sangmin left to deliver them, while Sol stayed to get some more. Alone, Sol suddenly rethought his overly enthusiastic help for those strangers, and unavoidably he thought of Sonhwa. Noticing that Sangmin had gone for a while, Sol went out to find him. Sangmin and the other players were standing together facing the Silver Brags group. He used a special amulet to prevent others from going in. When Sol arrived, he started letting other people inside. Only Sol's team was left out. Then the Brags started to induce Sol's members one by one. Sangmin went in, then Seung-jin, and Sang-ah too. As she went inside, she was forced to hug him. The Silver Brag, honestly, the author had not told me his name yet, then looked at Sol. He told Sol that this world was a cruel place. His followers all betrayed him, and his heroic attitude would not get him anywhere. He posed his hand in welcoming Sol for collaboration and also requested an apology from him, to which Sangmin responded on behalf of Sol with a bat on Silver's fat-ass follower's head. He knocked out another. Sang-ah and Seung-jin also beat the crap out of the Silver Brag. Sol was surprised by their actions. Sang-ah then asked him if he thought they would betray him, and Sol revealed that it was like a test if they were worth his protection. The group was laughing together when a monster arrived at the stairway. They quickly got inside the 3-1 classroom, the safe shelter. The monster picked up the fat follower and ate him up in seconds. The silver guy, who had yet to come inside, was trying to crawl his way in, but Sang-ah came and kicked him in the face. The monster had already grabbed his legs. In that desperate moment, the nasty Brag decided that he cannot get finished alone, so he grabbed Sang-ah's ankles and held tightly. Sang-ah tried to get away while the monster bit off half of the Silver Brag's body. Seung-jin wanted to fight the monster and save Sang-ah, but Sangmin stopped him, saying that there was no way he could fight it. He glanced at Sol, and the two rushed out to drag Sang-ah back. Taking the chance when the monster took another bite, Sol threw the electric balls into its mouth, and it ended with a fireball. The finishing of this monster taught the group that to collaborate was really the only way out in this quest. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man met his dead wife and daughter in another room and received his karma. The next day, Sol woke up to find that everyone had already left searching for coins except Sangmin. He stayed to look after the sleeping like a log soul. Sol took out his weapon and started today's searching. As he had collected way more than enough for entrance fee, he planned to use the leftover at the gacha machine. He met Seung-jin, who had just collected his entrance fee at the stair, and gave the boys some coins. The two went to the library, where the gacha machine was. There, they met Seora sitting desperately in front of a machine. Seung-jin gave her some of his coins. Then he and Sol put 300 coins into another machine and started the gacha. Seung-jin quickly received a pen of knowledge, some special balls, and others. But what he wanted the most had yet to be found. He was losing hope and even confronted Sol when Seora approached them and offered the resurrection potion. They quickly rushed out to find her. Even Song-ah and Song-min also joined them, but Sol-ah was still nowhere to be found. The group decided to go to farther places to search. Song-ah went to the 5th place to meet up with Seung-jin. The two met the red-dressed girl at the stairway and explained as well as asking for help. Meanwhile, Sol had already got to the stadium. He called out Sol-ah's name, but it only awakened the corpses around him. Promptly attacking them, Sol accidentally glanced at the hole that Sol-ah was dragged in when she got attacked. Outside, Seung-jin was about to cry out of desperation when the red-dressed girl told him to search the 6th floor. He came up and actually met Sol-ah, but Sol was the one holding the portion, and he had just got out of the stadium. He rushed to find Seung-jin and got to the rooftop of a building. Sol-ah was having her final words with Seung-jin, which made everyone in tears. When they saw Sol standing on the opposite roof, there was only 20 seconds left at that point. Song-ah and Song-min thought that this was the end, but Sol made a big jump and got to them. 5 seconds left. He took off the cap and poured the portion towards Sol-ah. She was saved. 1. She fell down into Sol's chest and quickly came around. Seung-jin could not hide his happiness. He hugged Sol-ah tightly and cried. Sol-ah had no memories about what happened. She only learned that Sol had saved her life from Song-min's words. Then the system announced that the quest had ended. Han appeared to congratulate them. They were about to depart when Seora opened the door and gave Han her entrance fee. Sol actually looked disappointed. It seemed like he planned to give her the entrance fee to thank her for the resurrection portion. It was then that Seung-jin remembered Sol-ah's entrance fee. Luckily, Sol still had some left over for her. The red-dressed girl saw that, and she asked Sol if he could also help them. Sol took out 100 coins and gave them to Sol-ah. He asked the others how many more they needed and took out 85 coins, what the 3 needed. He threw the bag down. The 3 quickly rushed down to collect them. Seeing the few coins that Sol was holding in his hands, Seung-jin realized that he did not give out 85 coins. Indeed, Sol only gave 80. Then Han started to announce their scores. Yoon Seora got 317, Song-min got 302, Seung-jin 114, Song-ah 116, Sol-ah 46, and Sol our man got 350. Already so high, but that was for his first round only. Han added up the scores for all 4 rounds, and Sol's final score was at 2,150 points. For having saved many lives, Sol even got his scores increased by tenfolds, making 21,500 points. Everyone was in awe. Han congratulates Sol and reminded him to check out the VIP store. Down in the schoolyard, a girl had already collected enough coins and was about to go up. But the boy stopped her, saying that she should help them. She disagreed and wanted to leave, but the red-dressed woman hit her on the head. She took the coins and they got up. The people passed the portal. The group got to a lavish hall and was set to their seat. Sol was greeted by a blonde lolly, and before he could react, the synchronization started. The instructors start reporting their area's selection results, and it was until now that Sol knew the blonde girl could speak. Then a red-haired woman came out on stage and welcomed them to the neutral zone, where the players had to prove themselves worthy of Paradise before getting there. Each had to gain 1,000 survival points. Some people wanted to protest, but were quickly settled. The red-haired girl then called out the persons with the best performance to reward them. These people could choose to stay or to go to Paradise right away. Respectively, the players were called out in order of their scores, made their choice, and received a golden key with their ranking on it. Delphine, the blonde lolly, was called out and surprised to learn that she was only second. Sol was the first ranked. All rankers chose to stay. The people were then sent to do their missions. Soul advised everyone to take a rest, and then he was taken by the blonde girl for a tour around the place. He learned that the survival score was the currency in the neutral zone. Soul also got a 100% discount at many stores in the zone for being a gold marking and the first rank. But game was going to be tough for others. Soul was guided to his room while Maria, the girl, explained to him about the zone, and she also spoiled the Soul that the most precious thing about being in the zone was the VIP store. He took a sleep in his room and woke up feeling all fresh. He took a look at the leaflet that Maria gave him. It was from the VIP stores, and all of the items there were from at least 30,000. He put it aside and came down to the hall. At the information board, Soul read about the missions. They gave rewards varying based on difficulty and for group quest. He would have to team up with those from other areas. Delphia approached Soul to invite him to her afternoon tea, but Soul had already torn a mission leaflet. He was immediately sent to the dungeon. But in everyone's eyes, this was Soul's refusal to Delphia's invitation. With the help of Ju Yan, Soul cleared the dungeon in only 20 minutes and was sent back to the hall. Everyone was in shock by his speed. Soul scanned the board and found a 1,000-point quest for 6 people maximum. It was yellow in Soul's eyes, meaning that he had to be cautious. When he was about to tear it down, Delphia stopped him and said that the 5th-placed man joined the quest and had to come back, possibly was unalive in the mission. She offered him a tea break and was refused again. Soul had gotten the mission. He activated Ju Yan and saw a bunch of skeletons staring at him. They did not leave Soul any time to think and attacked him forcefully. Soul used the attacking balls he gained to fight back and knocked down a bunch of skeletons. Then the Skeleton King swung his poleaxe at him. Soul had no choice but to use his bag to fend off. Outside, people were discussing Soul's reckless choice for such a difficult mission. No one believed that he would be able to come back, but Soul appeared shakingly. Back in his room, Soul couldn't even stand thinking of what kind of danger he faced in the dungeon. He could have finished his life there. It was a mirror that he got from the library that saved his life. Soul started to question himself. He doubted if he had come this far and become the first ranker with his own strength, or if it was a gold marking and mere luck. Soul was crying when Soul-Ah came to his room. To cheer him up, Soul-Ah invited him to join her in no-reward marathon quest. They were sent to a running track. Surprisingly, or maybe not, Soul finished the quest way sooner than Soul. It was understandable though. Soul-Ah's parents were athletes and Soul was a gambler. Soul was totally exhausted, but he also felt much relieved after. On the other hand, Ziora had just come back to her dorm, with her arm still hurting badly. She was ashamed of herself and did not want to ask for more help from Soul's team. The team, however, thought differently. They wanted to help her, and Sungjin Soul-Ah's sibling wanted to pay back her favor. Soul was determined to get stronger. He suddenly thought of the note he got from the start. It told him to visit the VIP store to increase his strength. Soul came to the store and the clerk did not seem to welcome him. Only those with at least 30,000 points are welcome there. Soul was disappointed, but he mentioned the ability and his note, and the clerk immediately changed his attitude. He offered Soul the special portion that can increase the effect of training 8 times. Soul splurged his money on all of that. His training started. Meanwhile, people started to realize the impossibility of gaining 1,000 points in just 2 weeks. The top rankers also talked about the unreasonable difficulty of these quests. Then, Maria went by and some boys started to challenge her on this. They wanted to use Earth money for this. To this, Maria responded that they could report this with the red-haired woman. They immediately shut up. Our red-haired sexy was watching everything from a navigation room. She thought that Soul's decision of spending all 2 weeks in basic physical training was ridiculous. But here we also learned that the 2-week deadline was fake, and that the real deadline was 3 months. It was her plan to urge the players to work harder. Soul doesn't remember how many rounds he ran. He just wanted to keep running until he was exhausted. Soul is struggling with himself. He chooses between stopping to rest or slowing down, walking to replenish his strength to keep running. He got those thoughts out of his mind because he realized no one was judging him, and he didn't have to. Thinking about it, Soul carelessly tripped and got injured. After being injured, the The system announced that Soul had been upgraded and strengthened skills. After that, Soul was back to the headquarters. Although Soul practiced very hard, Agnes, Soul's teacher, warned him to reduce his training time because Soul's body couldn't handle his training frequency. Agnes advised Soul to rest and eat more sensibly, as rest and eating are also part of training. It makes the training process more efficient. Agnes left after giving advice to Soul. Soul wondered why Agnes helped him. Agnes responded that she saw Soul's talent, so she wanted to help Soul practice. In the following days, Soul faces Agnes's harsh workouts. Agnes is very harsh. Whenever Soul whines or asks to stop in the middle of training, he is punished by Agnes. Siora came to the hospital to check her arm. The doctor says that her arm is in danger if Siora does not treat it in time. She has to do a big surgery, and the cost of doing the surgery is very expensive. Since Siora wasn't eligible for a treatment, she left the hospital. Before Siora left, the doctor advised her to ask Soul for assistance and reminded Siora to take care of her arm. Siora had just come out of the hospital when she met Sola, and while they were walking, a man bumped into Siora's injured arm, causing Siora to fall. He didn't apologize to Siora. The man blamed Siora for pretending to be the victim. Passers-by also pay more attention to Siora. Siora doesn't want to be in trouble, so she prevents Sola from causing trouble for the man. Song-ah, after hearing the news of Siora and the man, was very angry and criticized that man. Song-ah was very worried about Siora's situation because the medicines that Siora takes is very expensive. She advises Siora to ask Soul for help. While Soul is practicing, Agnes orders him to stop, but Soul persists in wanting to practice a little more. Agnes praised Soul's spirit, but she also reprimanded Soul shouldn't practice too much because it easily leads to injury, and he has to waste time recovering the wound. Later, Agnes and Soul discuss some information about the awakening. Incidentally, Siora was also talking about awakening for Sola and Song-ah. Burrito and other players are rushing to collect points because Cynthia had announced that if they didn't collect enough points, they would fail. Cynthia gathered the survivors in the square to release a list of those who completed the mission. Only Soul, Delphine, Leorda, and Hyun are the ones to complete the mission. Siora wants to receive the favor of the awakening, but is still rejected by Cynthia, and Cynthia doesn't allow those who haven't collected enough 1,000 points to complete the mission. The other players, after seeing that Hao Wen was allowed to collect points from his teammates, also began to riot and bid to buy each other's points. Cynthia is so angry at the uselessness of these players. She gives them a second chance, and they have 2 months to prove their abilities. After that, they lined up to be awakened. Delphine awakened as a mage, and Soul awakened with a lot of abilities. Song-ah has awakened to the pre-skills, which is a rare skill, so Song-ah is happy, but Sola is not. Soul comforts Sola that her skills are also of the good skill class. Sungjin is even worse than Sola because he awakens warrior skills, which are of the lowest class skills. In total, they had 1 magician, 4 priests, 22 archers, and 51 warriors. Agnes seems disappointed with the result. She worries there is no one qualified to be the expedition leader. Cynthia understands Agnes's thoughts. She comforts Agnes and points out the problem is not because of quality, but because too much quantity will cause many people to become shields, so Agnes decides that just training Soul is enough. Agnes started a mana creation class. Soul wanted to go to the store to buy mana when Agnes was beaten. Agnes said that Soul wanted to have mana, so he had to practice himself to create. After that, Agnes gives Soul a task and gives him a week to do it, but Agnes hasn't left yet. Soul has already completed the task. Agnes was surprised. She asked Soul to summon his mana. Agnes realized that Soul refused to be a magician. Soul also admitted that because he just wanted to use the spear, so he refused to be a magician. Siora was eating in the toilet when Sola came looking for her. Sola realized Siora's current condition was not good, especially Siora's arm, which was broken. Since Siora is Sola's savior, Sola offers to help Siora. The other players are very jealous of Soul because he only does basic tasks while they have to do their best to earn points. It's been a month, during which Soul doesn't have to do difficult tasks because Agnes has led him through them. but Soul still worries that he won't be able to fight monsters if he only does easy tasks. Agnes seeks Soul to inform him of his new mission. Soul has been training hard for some time, and he has completed his training, so now Soul is qualified for the mission. Everyone is talking about the fact that Soul has collected 1 out of 3 of the tasks they received, and he has completed difficult tasks at an unbelievable speed. After being given the assignment, Soul re-performed tasks that he couldn't complete before. A girl comes looking for Soul. She is Hannah, Soul's new assistant. Hannah says that the players who possess the gold seal will be allowed to have an assistant to assist. Hannah lists things that she can do to support Soul as an assistant. However, Soul doesn't need that help. He asks Hannah what her true purpose is. Hannah wants Soul to help Siora, but Soul doesn't want to. And when Hannah says that Soul will get the same benefits as what he spends, Soul agrees. After Hannah left, Soul used his 9 eyes to observe. Soul detected a yellow light source in the building, and Soul arrived at the light and discovered that Siora was lying there. Soul asked Maria to help Siora, but Maria offered the solution to remove the injured arm because the arm was necrotic. But Agnes says there's another way. If Maria gets to level 5, she will learn the holy skill Cure Colossal Wounds. Maria doesn't want to do that because if she fails, she'll be confined to a bed for the next 7 days, suffering from a high fever and a restriction of being unable to cast any spells for the next 2 weeks. Another problem is that if she leaves the neutral zone before the deadline, all of her points will be lost, and the materials needed for the ceremony is no joke. In the end, Soul bid 82,000 points for Maria to perform the ceremony. Soul joined Delphine's team to collect points for the ceremony. They quickly collected enough points and the ceremony was already started. Maria was exhausted after the ceremony, and she successfully saved Siora's arm. In addition, with Soul's entry, Delphine's team has swept through all the missions they received, and Soul has paid off the points he borrowed from. To repay Soul, all 3 of them, Siora, Sola, and Sanjin, have begun their basic training with an instructor. They eventually complete all the missions, but only one difficult task they can't overcome yet, so Soul disbands the team. After Siora restores her arm, the first thing that she does is go to get revenge on those who trampled her. Siora took revenge on the girl who harmed Siora when she was injured in the arm. Siora exposed the girl that she caused the boy's death, and if she had been dumped by Burrito, she would have nowhere to go. To be fair, Siora requested a battle with her, and she was destroyed by Siora in one blow. At the same time, Soul has also completed an impossible task, which was one that neither he nor Delphine's team had been able to conquer before. Agnes admires Soul's level of recklessness. She guesses that Soul must have prepared some sort of tactic to conquer the impossible mission, but Soul doesn't share the secret. He decides to keep it until he passes away. Cynthia announces the end of the training, and they are freed after hearing Cynthia's message. Hannah has been waiting for Soul in advance to welcome him back home. Then everyone said goodbye to each other and back to their homes. Although he has some regrets, Soul still believes that they will meet again as long as they are alive. Soul left, but he didn't tell anyone his real name. After returning to Earth, Hannah transferred Soul a large amount of money because he had completed the mission. Hannah also reminded their role to make sure Arthian was stored in a safe place on Earth. After having the money, Soul buys Jinhee's car and laptop, which he sold earlier to go to the casino. In addition, there is cash that he borrowed from her, and Jinhee is very angry when he sees Soul. Woo-Sok is also very angry when he sees Soul. He thinks that the money Soul earns is dirty money and doesn't want to take it, but Jinhee quickly grabbed the money bag. She doesn't want to lose the money for saving face. Sonwad also doesn't trust Soul because he can earn such a large amount of money in a month. Soul feels desperate. No one trusts him, and he can't tell them what he's doing. Soul collapses when he meets Hannah. He wants to go back to heaven to continue fighting. Paradise, where 7 gods summon people on Earth and give them power, only to achieve one goal, which is to fight the parasitic queen who has invaded Paradise. However, if there's one thing that the gods have overlooked, that humans are not selfless beings. 7 days ago, in Haramaj, an expedition team was recruiting volunteers for their upcoming trip. Their team and Carpe Diem are in charge. This is a royalty quest, so they will receive an attractive reward. They're going to the forest of negativity. Others cannot stop laughing when they know where the Samuel team wants to go, because it is a difficult place and the royal rewards are not attractive enough for them to sacrifice their lives there. Soul was eating when Samuel's team thought he was provoking them. They had a conflict. However, because Soul's mana power was very strong, but he was only level 1, others thought he was lying to trick them, so they wanted to attack Soul. When they are about to fight, Alex and Hugo come to relieve Soul, who explains that what Soul said is true. After that, Soul went to Hugo's house to rest, which is also the gathering place of the Carpe Diem team. Hugo and the captain discussed with each other, and they decided to invite Soul to join the team and proceed to conquer the negative forest. However, this time they will conquer the forest, and they will go deep into the center of the forest. Samuel prepared everything, and they were ready to conquer the forest. On the way, Samuel asked the team to stop, and they prepared their forces to fight Eden. Soul also wanted to join the fight, but Cho Hong stopped Soul because he's only level 1. They quickly destroyed the Edens. Dylan has given Cho Hong the task of cleaning up, and Soul watches them fight admiringly. Ian praises Cho Hong's skills, but Cho Hong doesn't like Ian calling her name. Soul laughs when he sees them arguing like family, and Ivan introduces Soul to the other members. Although Soul is a potential person, Dylan still doesn't want him to join the Carpe Diem because Dylan knows that Carpe Diem's abilities aren't enough to develop Soul's talent. And if Soul joins their team, his talent won't be able to fully develop, so the debate ended and they continued on their way. They went to the southernmost region of humanity, the region border. In retrospect, Hannah once advised Soul to leave Scheherazade because Xingyang had a tremendous force behind it. Xingyang's victory in the civil war among Earthlings, as well as its current status and authority, are all thanks to him, Xiang Zixian. Because he suddenly disappeared, Xingyang was as weak as the condition now, and Soul suddenly appeared. They would scramble him at all costs, but Soul signed a contract with Hannah first, so they would do everything to destroy Soul before he became stronger. Hannah advises Soul to go to Haramark, which is a dangerous area, but Soul won't die there, as long as Soul doesn't go too far to the southern border. Soul doesn't just go south, he also goes all the way to the southern border. Ivan told him something necessary before entering the forest. Then he started conquering the forest. As soon as they entered the forest, their team met Khan. He passed away when he conquered the forest. Samuel was unable to control his emotions when he saw Khan, so Samuel was controlled by the forest. Luckily, Ivan used his magic to purify Samuel and save him, and others who witnessed the scene also began to alert to the dangers of the forest. While the group was discussing, a lion appeared. Dylan reacted quickly and shot the lion, but it was blocked by Khan's axe. They were surrounded by a lion. They were monsters living across the mountain, and their team didn't know why they had appeared there. Dylan divided the work for each person. Hugo and Clara handled on the left, Samuel and Grace on the right. Then they started fighting the lions. The battle was very intense. Soul thought victory was in his hands, but before they could celebrate, the boss had upgraded his strength. Soul realizes that it is the influence of the forest, and Soul clears his mind to analyzing the situation more logically. Knowing that the monster isn't his opponent, but Soul still decides to fight it. Its power is so overwhelming, so Soul has to make full use of his magic. Taking the opportunity that the monster was caught off guard, Dylan finished it off with an arrow. After seeing Soul's ability, the rest of the team looked at him with different eyes. They respected Soul more and complimented him. They removed the old rules for level 1 players, and Samuel also invited Soul to cooperate on their exploration as their official members. Their team has reached the tomb of the Saintess. The strength of the forest is focused to protect this place, so they feel more comfortable when they come here. They decide to enter the tomb, although Soul prevents them. They still insist on entering. Soul decides to stay outside. Soul was talking to Han when he suddenly remembered Nine Eyes. Soul used Nine Eyes to observe, and he discovered the tomb emitting black light, meaning it was very dangerous. As soon as Samuel had opened the lock, Cho Hong and Soul had to arrive to prevent them from coming in. Soul has read the mind of the spirit inside the tomb. It is the soul of a saintess, and she will destroy all those who enter the tomb. Later, Soul performs a ceremony to ask the owner of the tomb to allow them to go inside. In the presence of everyone, Soul conducted the ceremony, and the saintess responded to Soul, who allowed them to enter as long as they did not disturb her eternal sleep. They entered the tomb. Inside the ancient tomb was a large space that was beautifully decorated, and there were many rare items placed there. They could take everything because the saintess had allowed them to do it. However, there was one thing they couldn't take, an artifact that allows its user to cast holy spells without offerings. Besides, you can store 6 different spells in it indefinitely, and they can be used without incantations. Because this is a very rare item, players cannot resist its appeal despite being warned by Soul. A conflict ensues because Soul disagrees with their reckless greed, and Samuel agrees to let them take the artifact artifact because he thinks power and money are more important. Everyone agrees with Soul's opinion, including Dylan and Ivan, and Samuel loses patience when he sees that Ivan is also on Soul's side. Ivan reprimanded Samuel because he had no patience on this exploration, but Ivan said that he was too impatient to collect enough rewards to save Vanessa. When Vanessa died, Samuel couldn't manage members. He can't replace Vanessa's position, so Samuel only thought about bringing Vanessa back as soon as possible. After listening to Ivan's advice, Samuel led his team and they collected only the items they were allowed. While they were collecting things, suddenly the grave began to shake. The team quickly ran outside. A mysterious force caught Clara and dragged her inside the tomb and the gate was closed. After a while, the door opened and Clara walked out with blind eyes. The saint had punished them for Alex stealing artifacts. The ugly greed of humans had angered the saint. The saintess has finished Clara. Alex has stolen her most precious artifacts, so she doesn't spare Alex. Samuel also doesn't escape destruction. The others were rioting against the power of the saintess. Cho Hong asks Ivan for help, but he can't defend himself right now. While everyone was in turmoil, only Soul calmly went to collect the artifacts to return to the saintess. Soul didn't care about the danger and went to collect the artifacts. Suddenly, Soul is transported to another dimension. Here, Soul meets the saintess, and she scolds the selfishness of humanity. Although she allows them to enter the grave and take away the artifacts on the wall, their greed has no end. They stole her mother's heirloom artifact, and the ring was given by her beloved. Soul apologizes to the saintess, and the saintess asks Soul to close her eyes. She gives Soul her precious treasures and disappears. The saintess gave Soul fasting earrings, which will help Soul speed up when he loads mana into it. Soul tested the strength of the earring. He ran several laps but didn't know how to stop. Hugo and Cho Hong laughed at him. Then the two of them got into a fight with each other just because they cursed the other for being stupid. Dylan was depressed because now their team has 3 idiots. Dylan said that no team in Haramark was good enough to endure Soul's upright. Above all, Haramark would be his wall. Ivan said that the royal family issued an enlistment order to Earthlings. They lost contact with the Fortress of Arden, which means that the parasites invaded. Ivan told them about the current situation in heaven. They were being subdued by the parasitic queen's army. The royal court of Haramark built a fortress on the Arden Valley to prepare for the worst-case scenario. If that fortress collapsed, it would mean that even humans would have to join the war. At the Fortress of Arden, the army fought to its last breath, after which reinforcements also arrived. Hussey was listening to the general report on the condition of the forest. The onslaught of cockroaches and swarms of bugs had breached their defenses, and they had lost more than half of their force. All the Earthlings not coming, General said that they only do things that are beneficial for them. After that, Hussey led the soldiers to continue fighting to protect the fortress. Ivan's team arrived in the Arden Valley, where humans and parasites meet, where they met other Earthlings who were responding to the royal summons as they passed through. Princess Hussey was happy to see Ivan and the others come to the fortress. She was also very grateful that it was the first time that someone of high rank had responded to a royal summons. Hussey inquires about the situation of Samuel's team and learns that the team has been destroyed along with Khan's team. Ivan also introduces Soul to Hussey. Hussey wants to take him back because Soul is only at level 1, but because the army is short of men, so Hussey lets Soul join the fight. After that, Hussey started discussing tactics to catch Medusa. At the Arden Fortress, the commander and the others didn't want to fight because they didn't want to clean the trash that the royal caused and found ways to retreat and escape the fighting. Hussey did everything she could to convince them to help out the royal. She just needed them to hold off the monsters, and the royal would fight Medusa directly. Others don't compromise on this plan because it's dangerous. Even Soul is sure of it because he uses his ability to predict the future to see it. Hussey heard Soul saying that immediately refused him, and he thought that this wasn't the place where a level 1 person could participate. Others who knew Soul was only level 1 didn't stop laughing at him, and Ivan relieved Soul after talking about his achievements in conquering the negative forest. Hussey also gradually trusts Soul more. She has given him a task of directing. However, he has to take responsibility for himself because no one can help him if Soul goes in the wrong direction. After the parasites start attacking, they also carry out the plan. Hussey will lead a team, Cho-hong and Ivan will support one team, and Soul will also support another team. Soul used the power of his earrings to move. Even though he used mana to control him, he still felt like his legs were going to explode. All three, Hussey, Soul, and Ivan, worked together to form a trap to surround the monsters and trap them. While Ivan was concentrating on summoning magic, he slipped and fell off the cliff, but Cho-hong quickly caught Ivan's arm and saved him. Soul anticipated that the monsters could fly for about 10 minutes, so when they had just flown up, Soul threw a magic bomb to catch them. He then went to the peak of the dawn because he learned that Medusa was below, where the most splendid sunlight was. The closer they got to Medusa's position, the more numerous the monsters became. They rushed out in large numbers and surrounded Soul. After overcoming the monsters, Soul reached Medusa's location. Soul ignored the numbness in his legs to try his best to finish off Medusa, and a huge explosion erupted. Soul threw a bomb at Medusa, but Medusa quickly threw it back at Soul, and the explosion signaled Dylan to continue his mission. Cho-hong is worried because she doesn't believe they can defeat Medusa with 2 spell balls and Dylan's Thunder Strike. As soon as Medusa touched the orb, Dylan fired an arrow, but the arrow missed, so it could not destroy Medusa completely. So, Soul quickly used Stage 3 Festina earrings to speed up and knock out Medusa with a single blow. As soon as Medusa fell, Soul was exhausted and fell. The bugs after Medusa was destroyed also released energy, and Soul succeeded. Hussey and his accomplices were delighted, and they quickly dealt with the remaining bugs. Hussey came to pick up Soul, and even in his weakest state, he prioritized the fortress. The Carpe Diem team is expected to hold a party to celebrate the new member. Hugo said that he will reveal to Cho-hong about Haramark women. Hugo says that Soul doesn't like women in Scheherazade. Hussey brings Christmas presents, and Hugo and Cho-hong freeze for a few seconds because December is Christmas. Dylan awakens them this is heaven, and heaven doesn't matter what month Christmas is. Soul is lured by Gula, and he chooses a path no one has ever taken, which is the path of Calvary using mana spears. While Soul is having a headache over this new challenge, Dylan suggests someone who can help him, the creator of Carpe Diem. But Cho-hong immediately extinguishes Soul's hopes because the person is already retired. Soul, after some deliberation, says goodbye to Cho-hong and Dylan and leaves. At the Sicilian headquarters, Soul went looking for Agnes, and Cynthia left space for them to talk. Soul tells Agnes about the new path he has chosen, and Agnes reminds Soul that this is not a neutral zone, and he has to take everything himself. After that, Agnes asked a lot of questions about spears, but Soul had no knowledge about them. Soul has just arrived at Carpe Diem's headquarters and has caught Cho-hong's anger. Soul is confused about what happened. Dylan says their team has just received a mission. He wants Soul and Cho-hong to solve the task together because Dylan and Hugo have to leave for a while to deal with the mission from the Royal. However, Dylan wants Soul to be the captain on this mission because of Cho-hong's inability to be a leader, and Cho-hong is angry that Dylan won't let Cho-hong join his team. Soul was planning to upgrade the difficulty of the mission and find a priest for the team when Cho-hong said that if their team didn't have Dylan, no priest would want to participate. Soul tells Cho-hong not to worry about it and gives her the task of finding the rest of the members. Anna heard Soul's news, and she was furious because she warned Soul not to do anything too prominent, but now Soul is in the focus of everyone's attention. Then Soul asks Hannah to help them find a priest for his and Cho-hong's upcoming mission, since no priest wants to join their team. Hannah sends Soul the address of a priest, but this person would be a bit expensive. That's Maria. Soul went to meet Maria, and after paying a heavy price for Maria, he invited Maria to join their mission. Maria had just met Cho-hong and they had a conflict. Maria didn't want to work with a person short-brained like Cho-hong, and Cho-hong didn't want to work with a person like Maria. After summoning enough members, Soul set off on a mission, and upon arrival, Maria and Cho-hong vomited a lot because they had drunk a lot of water along the way. Soul meets Bryce, who's in charge of the town's security. Soul asks Bryce to take him to meet the village head. Soul asks Bryce to take him to meet the village head. Bryce is taking Soul to the village chief while they pass by Bryce's house. His mother constantly talks about the moon and sheds tears. Bryce's mother's condition isn't good, so he has to stay and take care of her, so Soul asks the two children to take him to the village head. Along the way, the child told Soul about the monsters here, the taboos, and the land of mist. Soul went to the village head. It seemed that not only the villagers, but also the village head were very superficial about the problem their village had. Soul's team was going to check the terrain when one of the team members was sneaked by monsters. Assimilation monsters began to appear everywhere. But these monsters, after being destroyed, can still recreate, which has caused difficulties for their team. Maria helped them extend the time to destroy monsters. She expected Soul to clear their way. Soul didn't disappoint his team. His spear helped him cut the monster in half like cutting tofu. Plus, they couldn't recreate it if cut through by Soul's spear. Thus, he gave Soul a good spear, which supported Soul a lot when he came to destroying assimilated monsters. Focusing on destroying the monsters ahead, Soul forgot to handle the monsters behind him. Fortunately, Maria helped him handle the monsters in the back. However, the number of these monsters is increasing, so his teammates promptly supported Soul, and they quickly destroyed the monsters. Despite destroying the monsters, their duties have not ended because they have not found the cause of creating mutants. The others had no idea when Soul increased the difficulty of the mission, because they had leveled up enough. Maria had received the money, and Cho Hong seemed worried by Soul's recklessness. While Cho Hong is reminding Soul not to be too greedy if he doesn't want Samuel's results, Soul has discovered something on the moon. Soul quickly ran to the place where the strange object was, which he thought was the cause of the mutants. Strangely, by the time Soul arrived, the strange object had already disappeared, and one of the team guessed that it might be a fake structure. After that, they destroyed the structure and found a door. After observing the door and learning that they could go in, Soul led the whole team inside. Inside is a space like a room. It seems that something has ever lived there, but it is just a room with nothing special. One of the people in the groups has found a switch and booted it a path that was open. After entering the bug, they discovered a magic circle, but it didn't seem dangerous. Soul asked Veronica if there are any other signs. Veronica says that looking at the direction of the wind, it looks like the exit, as Michael said. They should consider going to check it. The village head suddenly appeared. He said that they took a long time, so he went to see their situation. The village head said that maybe it's because of the magic circle. They just need to destroy it and go back to rest, but Soul's team doesn't believe that. The other members wanted to continue exploring the passage they had discovered since it took them a long time to get there. They couldn't waste it. The village had stopped them, but they wanted to continue. Soul stopped them and reminded them not to rush and prepared to fight forward. As soon as they entered the passage, they were attacked by monsters. Gearshal was captured by monsters. Because this monster was mutant, they had to use magic to destroy it. However, with the boss, it still has the ability to regenerate even though Soul's team used magic. Soul guessed that if he attacked the center of the monster, it would not be able to replicate, so Soul attacked the center of the monster. It seems that Soul guessed correctly. As soon as Soul attacked, the monster released Gearshal. Thanks to his ability to handle situations quickly and possess smart brain, Soul prepared a rushed plan for the team. Soul divides the work in positions of each person. As soon as Maria's shield is destroyed, their plans will begin. Soul realizes that although he has the ability to recover, the monster recovers very slowly. If he reduces the number of tentacles in one turn, it will be easier to attack. The monster suddenly changes its fighting style. Soul realizes their situation is more dangerous, and he lets everyone retreat. However, Veronica and Mihail were quickly defeated by the monster. Maria promptly created a shield to protect them. Gearshal, after receiving Maria's shield, cowardly flees. Maria has no one to protect her, so she's in danger. Cho Hong reminds Soul that after she opens the way, Soul will attack and destroy the monster. But Cho Hong can only maintain this state for 30 to 40 seconds, so Maria asks Soul to protect her so Maria can focus on supporting Cho Hong. Cho Hong fought fiercely with the monster. Her attacks did great damage to it. Just a little more, they could win. However, now that her powers have run out, Cho-hong has returned to her normal state, and she has been knocked out by the monster. Soul took Cho-hong's place, but Soul was too weak to destroy the monster's defenses. Right now, Maria has finished this ceremony. She has helped Soul take down the monster's defenses. Soul only needs to strike the last blow to take it down. However, when Soul gave the last blow, the monster attacked Maria. Soul decided to save Maria. Cho-hong stopped the attack for them, and she passed away. After Cho-hong passed away, the monster has not been completely destroyed. Maria regrets that Soul saved her. Soul moved to a new level after Cho-hong passed away. He went into finishing mode and continued to fight the monster. Soul destroyed the monster in one attack. However, after the monster was destroyed, Soul regained consciousness, but he doesn't remember the memories of when he destroyed the monster. Luckily, Cho-hong is still alive, so Maria is helping her heal. Soul breathes a sigh of relief when he sees that Cho-hong is still alive. Maria wants to hit Soul in revenge because every time she cooperates with Soul, she is only in danger. But Maria is exhausted and faints on Soul. At this time, the village head suddenly appeared. Soul wanted to hear the village head telling the whole story, but the village chief asked them to return to rest first. Soul wanted to know the identity of the village head. He said that he used to be a witch of Duke Delphinion, the state to be famous for magic techniques. And the origin of the mutants is created by him. It is the business secret of the Empire, the secret weapon against the parasitic floods. And when he met Soul, the village head's plan failed. He took advantage of the Earthlings to deploy his monster to protect the villagers. Since their village had no protective walls, they used the monster to destroy the parasites. Soul is alarmed when he learns that he has destroyed the village's shield, but the village chief comforts Soul because he knows this will be revealed soon. The village head showed Soul the radium stone. It was the essence of alchemy. He could control the nest thanks to this stone, but it could be exhausted. The village chief also said that the nest strengthened because it learned after battles with Earthlings. In the end, Soul still chose not to publicize what the village chief did. He just takes the reward from the mission and leaves. Cho-hong regains consciousness from her coma. She urgently wants to know their situation, but Soul says that Cho-hong is drunk because they are on their way to Ramon Village. Cho-hong thinks that she has dreamed of their future, so she asks Soul to return because they will be in danger if they reach the village. Cho-hong quickly realizes that she was tricked by Soul when she sees her changed hair color. Then Soul told her about the village head. He is just a person who loves his village. After returning, Soul offered to celebrate, but his team was so tired after the trip that they dispersed to rest. Soul went to the village head and talks to him about Delphinion's lab. Soul believed that the lab had another secret passage. The village head agreed to that. He snuck the radium stone out. It was once a big rock, and the secret passage linked all the way to the village head's house. Soul returns to find Cho-hong waiting for him. Cho-hong has been waiting for Soul all night because she was worried about Soul. After comforting Cho-hong, they set off together to rescue the others. Ivan has reviewed Soul's plan and it is workable. However, recalculations are still needed to ensure results. Cynthia said that there was no sign of them on Earth, meaning they had not passed away. Summing up the data that Soul brings, their rescue plan begins, and the rescue team consists of people who have close ties to the hostages. Cho-hong and Ivan, who miraculously recovered, and Level 2 Soul were also part of the plan. Agnes reminds Soul before he carries out the plan. Agnes reminds Soul to be careful with the snipers because their speed is very fast. She can only hear the gunshots and see a hole in her body. Even the spell doesn't work. It's the first time she feels imminent danger. After that, the plan was started. Kazuki went to meet Soul. He wasn't sure if he could survive the plan, but he promised to repay this debt to Soul if he survived. After assembling the rescue team, Ivan gave them time to say their last words, after which he cast a spell to teleport them to the battle site. Inside was a structure as big as a city. They didn't know how to go. Soul reminded them to just follow the map and search for possible locations. Soul recalls the village head once telling them that the minds of monsters are controlled by the radium stone, so they can be an entity as well as a whole. Soul used the stone to control the monsters and make them stand still. After that, they split the team to search. They had 5 minutes to search for the others. Soul and his teammates discover Hugo, and they quickly save Hugo and cure him. They also realize that the parasitic monsters have captured the living people and weakened them to easily parasitize. And Ivan's theory that the parasites capture the living to use for food is correct. Chohong then takes on the task of bringing Hugo back to safety, while the rest continue searching for the missing. Arriving in the next room, Soul finds Dylan and another person, but neither of them can be saved. However, they are able to restore Dylan's consciousness for a while to get information. Soul can't control his emotions when he sees Dylan's condition. Dylan also didn't know exactly where the others were. He just knew that they were somewhere around his room. After thanking and saying goodbye to everyone, Kazuki helped Dylan leave more peacefully. Soul can't help himself when he sees his teammate gone, but Dylan comforts him because Soul came to save Dylan just as Dylan wished. Soul recalls his memories with Dylan, which makes his feelings intense, and he collapses when he sees Dylan freed. Soul's teammates comfort him to stand up because there are others who haven't been saved. After a few seconds of thought, Soul stood up to continue fighting because there were many more people he needed to rescue. They went to the next room. The size of the room was like a village. It seemed to be the monster's breeding room. They decided to search the building first and then the lab hall. But as soon as they reached the building, an unpleasantly sweet scent came out. Kazuki had guessed that it was the smell of aphrodisiacs. After entering the building, they could be sure that this was the smell of aphrodisiacs. Besides, they discovered Lawrence. After treating her and finding that Lawrence wasn't infected, they took her to safety. Kazuki warns Soul that with the rest of the time, they can't search the entire lab hall. Soul thinks that Kazuki wants to give up. However, Kazuki makes a completely opposite decision, choosing to take a risk. Kazuki realized that someone had just been dragged out because the trail left behind was so new. Kazuki found his sister, but she was infected, so Kazuki helps Yui free her. Soul stops Kazuki, but Kazuki says he won't have much time left to save the princess, so Soul is silent. Soul admires Kazuki because he remains calm even when he has to free his sister with his own hands, and there is no guarantee his sister will regain her memory on Earth. Soul mistakenly identified a native as a princess when they passed through a room, feeling lucky that it wasn't a princess. Kazuki decides to split up to save time searching as they only have 6 minutes and 40 seconds left to complete this task. Kazuki instructs Soul to get back when there is at least a minute left. Then they start separating to search. Soul uses the 9 eyes and finds Hussey's location, and Hussey is touched when she sees Soul coming. At this point, the monster suddenly turns around to check on the noise Hussey just made when Soul comes to her rescue. Soul used the radium cube to control the monster, but it was not affected by that radium cube because it was of a high rank. The monster forced Hussey to say the covenant between the royal and the 7 gods because it was the only way to show the value of Hussey with the queen. Hussey asked for more time to think when the monster hit them once in the stomach. Hussey said that because they were so stupid, they needed more time to think, so the monster gave them 10 minutes. As soon as the monster left, Soul rescued Hussey and took her out of the room. The monster is furious as soon as he learns that Hussey has fled. He summons the other monsters to find and block Soul's path. The radium stone was no longer effective against the monsters, so Soul increased his speed and carried Hussey to escape. Soul succeeds in saving Hussey safely with Kazuki's help. Kazuki reminds Soul that they only have 11 seconds left to bring Hussey to safety. Time began to count down, and just as Soul was about to get Hussey to safety, he was hit by the sniper and fell. The magic circle closed. Both Soul and Hussey were trapped. Chohong was anxious to want Ivan to restart the magic circle to save Soul and Hussey. Kazuki recounted what he saw before the magic circle closed. Soul found Hussey, but on Soul's way brought Hussey to the magic circle. He fell down from behind, and Kazuki heard it was the sound of gunfire. The monster was very angry because it was greedy and didn't destroy Hussey before. In the dream, Soul heard Hussey calling his name and he woke up. Soul thought his injuries were fine, but Hussey showed Soul the giant hole in his wound. Luckily, Soul had 2 healing points left, so Hussey gave her and Soul 1 each. In addition, Hussey found a map of Soul's body, so they moved to the hideout in disguise. Soul remembered the village head's instruction. This was the safe haven he built. There is a magic circle to move. However, it will teleport to the parasitic queen's palace. Soul feels lucky that they didn't accidentally activate the magic circle. Later, Soul decided to get out of this shelter. As Soul and Hussey tried to push the door, they accidentally opened to another place. A thunder that swept through this place. It has great power and is the secret weapon of the Alliance. Soul suddenly apologized to Hussey because he didn't pay attention to the sniper, although he was warned. As a result, they fell into the current situation. Hussey was surprised to see that Soul was an Earthling. He not only didn't scold Hussey, but apologized to her. Hussey ignored all that. She wants Soul to find a way to get out. The first day after escaping, they still found no signs of life. Like the world was destroyed, Soul couldn't imagine what the Queen-ruled empire would look like. Hussey predicts that they will pass from the Arden Gorge fastest for 5 days, and at least 6 days. The second day after escaping, the temperature dropped sharply, but both did not have enough clothes to heat. Soul and Hussey took advantage of body temperature to warm each other. On the third day after escaping, they met a monster, but they quickly hid. On the fourth day after escaping, they faced the problem of running out of drinking water. On the fifth day after escaping, they encountered a bug monster. Soul used radium to control the bug to disappear. On the seventh day after escaping, Soul hallucinated due to lack of drinking water. On the 8th day after escaping, Soul thinks that he has been abandoned. While Soul is thinking, a pack of wolves attack Soul, and thanks to his mental strength from Hussey, Soul is determined not to give up and fight the wolves in a battle. Are you guys curious about the outcome of this match? Soul and the wolves, who will be the winner? Click the like button and subscribe below to discover more in the next episode.